This is the best MacBook to buy right now and in 2025. We have spent 1 month with all the new MacBooks, and I think that this is the best bang for the buck, and it is one of the best values that Apple has ever given us in a performance laptop. Now I know that is a very strong statement, so in this video I will explain why that is and my experience with this amazing machine. Now I want to start out with last year when we got the M3 Pro. That was the first year that Apple actually downgraded their chip year over year. It got less cores, it got less memory bandwidth. That just did not make sense, and that is because they focused on the M3 Max, which was a great deal. But this year, the surprise out of the whole lineup is this machine at $1999. Now we also have the M4 at $1599, and that did get better. They added more features, but when you look at this machine that comes with 24 gigs of RAM, you also get twice the graphics cores, more CPU cores, and all of that just costs $400 more. Well, for that extra money, that is an amazing bargain, and you can get it for even less if you use the links down in the video description. Now, before I get into all the interesting performance changes, let's talk about the exterior, because you cannot even tell which machine this is. It looks identical, but they have made some changes. And the first one that I'm actually very impressed with is the center stage camera. I didn't love this on the desktop displays that they offered, but in this machine, it makes so much sense because it's small, you're looking at a lower angle, you could be off to the side, and it made a big difference in our usage, and the quality still looks good, even though it has to crop in from a wide angle. So it's a very, very nice, handy webcam. Now on the inside, it looks identical as well. The speakers look the same, the fan system is the same, which I'll talk about that in just a sec, but the battery, the actual capacity has increased by just a little bit. Now with that said, the battery life does get a little bit worse because the chip has so much more performance when you are pushing it. And in our hands-on test, it got 29% after hours of just maxing it out compared to 38% with the previous version, but that is well worth it. And if you're doing simple tasks, the battery life is fantastic. Now, as far as the display, it looks the same right now, me looking at it, but Apple made some very impressive changes. They're using new technology, and that allows it to hit 1,000 nits in normal content, which is great. Now, the way they did this is if you're using it normally or if you max out the brightness, you won't see a difference unless you are outside or in a very bright room. That is when it will peak much brighter, and it makes it really nice to use in those bright environments. Now with that, they also added the nano-texture option, and surprisingly, it is only $150. I remember when my 6K display came out, it was a $1,000 option. Now, honestly though, I think for most people, because of the extra brightness, you don't need this. But if you're somebody that really hates reflections, it's nice to have that. And the other change, as far as feature set, have to do with the ports. Now the regular M4 doesn't get this, but the M4 Pro and Max now get Thunderbolt 5, which goes up to 120 gigabit per second. That is 3 times faster than Thunderbolt 4. And that is just insane. I was not expecting this, and although right now almost nobody can make use of it, if you're buying one of these laptops, this future-proofs you for a long time, and I would say it's worth spending the extra money for the M4 Pro instead of a discounted M3 Pro. Now we tested out the OWC SSD, that's the first option available, and the speeds are incredible. Not everybody needs it, but it's really great for future-proofing, along with having more connections for a display through a single cable, better for docks. It's just great all around. And now let's get into performance, because this puppy is fast. Here are the specs side by side compared to last year's M3 Pro model, and you will notice that we have a lot more CPU cores, we have more graphics cores, and what's impressive is the amount of performance cores. Apple actually dropped 2 efficiency cores, traded them for performance cores. Now we have 8 compared to 5, and so even though just looking at the total core count, it's not a big difference, in reality it is. Now the chip also got faster as far as frequency, so that gave us 43% more multi-core performance, which when do we ever get that year to year? Back in the Intel days, we'd get 5%, 10% better performance. I mean, this is insane. The single core is also incredibly fast, so it's so fast and snappy for your everyday regular tasks. And that allows programs like Logic to literally handle twice as many tracks. I mean, this is just mind-blowing. And how is that possible? Well, along with having 24 gigs of memory base, it's now using 4 separate channels, 75% more memory bandwidth. I mean, that is incredible once again. And in programs like Lightroom, we literally saw almost double the performance, getting so fast that this thing will beat out previous Max chips. I'm talking M1, M2 Max in overall performance when you're factoring in the CPU, the memory, and the graphics. Now, we also got more graphics cores. Those cores got faster, and that gave us 42% higher FPS in 3D Mark Solar Bay. Once again, a huge year-over-year increase. And in Blender, because of the updated ray tracing, we saw a really nice improvement as well. And even for video editing, we have faster encoding times now, which is the first time since the M1 chip came out that we have faster encoders. And when doing this testing and using the machine, I told people, hey, if you're doing 4K video editing, don't feel like you need a Max chip anymore. This machine does a great job. It can handle so many effects. I mean, seriously guys, look at the multi-core compared to even the M3 Max. This almost reaches it. That is a $4,000 machine. And this for $2,000 is right there. Now, of course, some people might still want a Max chip because it does have a lot more graphics cores. And if you need graphics like crazy, that's a decent bang for the buck if you are gonna max it out all the time. But for most things, you're not doing that, and this can handle so much. So what is the downside with this machine? Well, only 2 things, honestly. The first one, the battery life is a little worse than we had last year. And the second part is the fan noise. Because the CPU and graphics are so much more powerful, the fans ramp up way faster than last year. They run louder than last year, hotter than last year, and that is just the limitations of physics. They would have to make this much thicker to have better cooling performance. Now, it could still handle it for this binned version. The unbinned chip, we did a full comparison against it. Well, that does bin a little bit. It actually slows down a little bit because of fans. But this package at this price point is just the best overall value to performance I have ever seen Apple put out. It is future-proof. It is an amazing machine. So after a month, I mean, if you're on the fence of buying this machine, maybe you're comparing it to the M4 chip, I would say buy this. Don't buy an M3 Pro. If you care about performance, this is the one to buy. So you guys let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Click that circle above and check out one of those comparisons which this machine is in. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next one.